Ooh, that sound is unmistakable. If you've worked on cars for any amount of time, the sound of rolling a jack, bringing jack stands in, it sends chills down your bones. You know that you're going to be crawling around and jacking and putting and moving and just doing all that work. So today, what I've got for you is the pros and cons of the MD6XP BendPak scissor lift and my long-term review. I've had this lift since 2016. It's now the end of 2022, and I've had just about every experience possible with this. So let's get into it. So let's talk about who this lift is primarily for. I'm gonna say it's for anybody with a short ceiling height garage, right? That makes the most sense. If you have 12 or 14 foot, 16 foot ceilings, then you've got the room for a 2-post lift. But in my space here, this is a 9-foot ceiling, and where I originally bought the lift, I had a 7-foot, 6-foot ceiling, or 7-foot, 6-inch ceiling. There was just no ceiling space or no height to use any other lift. So I was really looking at 3 options. I was looking at the MaxJax, which was a 2-post short lift, the Quick Jack, which is the 2-piece kind of scissor lift style, and then you've got this typical scissor lift or mid-rise lift that fits into that space. So the lift sits at about 4.5 inches, and when you add on the lift plate or the smallest lift adapter, we're at about 5.5 inches. My car sits at about 4 inches max. So there was no way this specific car would roll over it, and some of my previous cars were lower even still, so there's no chance of getting them on there. So my solution, as with a lot of folks with this lift, is to run a set of ramps on the side. Now you could do that in a couple of different ways. You could use race ramps, which is going to be pretty pricey, or you can go the cheap route like I did, and what I'm using is a set of 2x12x12s with some 2x4x12 2x4s as bracing underneath, because a 2x12 was $44 versus the $7 for the 2x4. And then on the back, to step it up, I'm just using 1x12 stepped up 3 ways so that it just rolls up nice and smooth. That gives me a nice clean loading space, but I run into a new problem. Now, when there's no car here, I've got these giant ramps in the way. So it's clearly a trade-off that I've chosen to work with. Pro number 2, because the lift does take up a small footprint, even though it's quite heavy, it's mobile. So the motor assembly comes with this cart, and the cart has a pickup point on the front, and the lift has a pickup point there on the front. And because of the operation of the lift, it has these wheels at the back, so you use the trolley to tilt the front of the assembly up, and you can roll the whole lift around off of those wheels. I've used this lift in lots of different locations. It used to be on the other side of my garage over there, where you can see I have another lift to come here in the future. But that brings me to con number 2. And that con is, when you're lifting 3, 4, 5,000 pounds on this lift, these wheels are going to be digging into your concrete, and they will gall it up, chip it, and break it. So my solution was fairly inexpensive and simple. I bought a set of these 8 by 24 inch plates, 16 gauge steel at Home Depot. You can see I've pillaged a couple pieces off of that one. And what that has done is that's given the wheels somewhere to roll above the concrete. And since I've done that, I haven't damaged my concrete at all. So that's a super simple tip. If you go this route, protect your flooring with a set of plates with something so that it doesn't gall it up. Pro number 3 and con number 3, they're going to go together yet again. And the pro here, we already touched on this, is that this lift fits in a really low height garage. Again, I said that this was about 9 foot. When I bought the lift originally, it was for a garage that was under 8 foot tall. So you can see here, this is the max lifting height on lock position 3, which comes out to 42.5 inches at the top of the lift plate. And if you use the lowest lifting adapter, then we're going to be riding 44 inches. Then if you have the truck adapters, you get even more option out of it. So with a single truck adapter, that'll be 46.5 or 49.5. Now your limiting factors here are going to be, how tall is your vehicle? Are you working with a car, SUV, a truck? That's going to limit your ceiling height. But the ultimate thing that we're dealing with is you could squat down underneath the car, you crawl. I usually crawl around on my knees. And now you've got great access under the car to do an oil change, suspension, engine work. I've done complete engine overhauls with this lift. I've done long tube headers, transmission work. You do have access right here to get up under the transmission. What I normally do is I'll put a blanket or a pad here, lay down up against the pistons, and I can get under a car fairly simply. I didn't say comfortably, I said simply. But while this lift height is a pro, it's also somewhat of a con, right? You only get up about 4 feet or just under 4 feet. I guess we're quite a bit under 4 feet at 42 inches. But again, limited by ceiling height, this is going to be significantly better than if you were dealing with the QuickJack versions that only come up about 18 inches. This is a significant improvement when the car is on there, which is what we're going to do next. All right, so pro number 4, you already saw was setup. Setup is super simple because the whole unit is mobile and you can see it here on the stand. All you have to do is find a plug with 110, 120 power and you're ready to go. They do recommend that you have a 20 amp outlet, but that was it. The next thing to talk about on the lift operationally was just a quick mod that I made, and that was to mark with this red paint where my locking points are. So while I'm over there looking under the car from my lifting motor, I can see and hear, you hear the noticeable click of the lock there, but I know that I'll have a positive engagement because I have those points marked, and then the lift arm will lock into place like you see that there. You can see, for me, even with my door open, the car has plenty of space. My wife's car, being an SUV, I have to close the door. You know, your mileage may vary depending on your vehicle. Having the car on here brings me to con number 4, and this is the con that is probably going to be the one that keeps most people from buying a scissor lift like this, and that is the center section here. You can see with the scissor, it takes up the whole center section of the car. So I have found myself over the years climbing in here multiple times to get to whatever it is that I might need underneath here. And yeah, this isn't safe. Typically what I'll do is I'll throw a few jack stands along my ramps, or I have some super tall mid-rise jack stands. I'll throw those under here so that I can feel safe. I mean, lift comes down, you're probably dying. But this has worked for 6 years now. I'm on the lock, there's nowhere for it to go. And it just works. So if you're dealing with a lot of stuff down the center of the car, for most people, this is gonna be trouble. This was the lift that I had though for the last 6 years, and all of the work that I've done to this car until recently was done on this lift. So pulling the transmission, pulling the exhaust, installing the exhaust, long tube headers, the drive shafts, everything on this lift. What I've done is I've lowered the lift onto jack stands. I know it sounds counterintuitive. Use the truck adapters to get the body of the car higher off of the plate of the lift, and that's given me plenty of working space. Not ideal, but it works. For other people, I've seen them modify this rear cross member, cut it out and put bolt mounts in so that they can remove this altogether. Usually rear engine guys like Porsche owners and whatnot, they'll take this out and you have a lot of room in the back. But for me, it hasn't been necessary. Either way, con number 4, it's a scissor lift. There's a lot of material here getting in the way. So yeah, the scissor portion of the lift is kind of a pain in the butt. It gets in the way. But why do I still have this lift if I have a 2-post? I have found that it is very useful. So you can see behind me, I've got a pretty in-depth cage here. I built the whole cage on this lift instead of my 2-post because the 2-post gets in the way. I did have the doors off of here, but I had to climb all around those post beams to get in and out of the car, and that was a real pain in the butt. You can see just how high the car is here, that doing detail work, buffing, clay barring, all of that, you have the body and everything right in front of you. It makes it a lot better on your back, of which I have quite a few problems with. Even getting into suspension work, brake work, maintenance, simple stuff, it's all right here at the taking. This makes it so much easier to get at everything when you can just stand and work comfortably. The 2-post, you can do that too. You can access everything underneath, but again, most people don't have the ceiling height. I just moved to this house and now I do, and after many, many years hoping, dreaming, and saving to get a 2-post, I did. And I thought, well, I'm gonna get rid of the scissor lift because I won't need it anymore. And yeah, okay, I don't need it. I admit, I have a problem. I am addicted to tools, like bad. If I can find a tool that will make my life easier, I will save and then buy that tool. This is one of them. Again, I thought I was gonna sell it, but this is so convenient to be able to have the car at a workable height and do all sorts of stuff out of the way. Again, all the lift is down below. It's not in the way of anything that I'm doing. The ramps, yeah, okay, that's a bit of a con, but it's workable. We can park another car in the garage here and we can continue to do things that are a lot easier than being on the ground. So if you're looking at a scissor lift, a MaxJax, or a quick jack, I hope that this gives you a little perspective as to how this lift could work for you and maybe gives you a little direction. If you like the video, like, subscribe, that would be awesome. It would really help our channel grow. If you want to watch something else that we put together, maybe a car project or a house project, take a look at the links here somewhere on the screen. You know how they'll pop up. Anyhow, thanks for watching. I look forward to seeing you on the next one. Bye.